Top U.S. officials met face-to-face with Ukrainian President Zelensky and his top advisors for the first time since the start of the war. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Secretary of Defense Lloyd are now the highest-level officials to visit Ukraine since February. And it comes as Russia launches new attacks along the southern coast. ABC News national correspondent Marcus Moore is in Kyiv with the latest. Hi, Marcus. So Secretary of State Blinken and said that Russia already failed to meet its goals in this war. What were Russia's goals by his definition, and why haven't they been met?
Well, I think, Diane, you look at a few different elements of this conflict and what Russia has been trying to do. One of them was to try to take Kyiv, where our team is right now. That was an effort where they failed. They were stopped at the suburbs of this capital city. But then when you look at what's happening in the east, well, even the Russians have said that their goal is to control the Donbas region and also Ukraine's southern territory. And while they have been able to take some of the smaller communities here in Ukraine, they have not taken the larger cities, and also any progress that they've tried to make in the towards the west simply has not happened. Their offensive has stalled, essentially, according to Western observers. And so when the Secretary of State says that they have not met their goals, certainly those are some of the things he's talking about. But it is worth noting that all along, U.S. officials have been concerned and have said that they believe Russia has been preparing for a much larger offensive than what we've seen so far. Of course, time will tell how accurate that information is, but the Ukrainians have been holding on, Diane, they say, thanks to the weapons and assistance they've been receiving, not only from the United States, but from several other Western countries.
And Marcus, we're now hearing the U.S. will provide Ukraine with another $322 million in new aid. So what does that actually look like? What does it include? And when can Ukraine expect to see that arrive?
Well, one of the things we've heard from experts and observers is that the needs Ukraine has had, that it's actually evolved. And so the equipment they were receiving early on and that they were requesting early on has changed now that we're at this stage of this conflict. And what they're receiving now from the U.S. is equipment like howitzers or cannons that allow them much longer range artillery fire. And they've been in this defensive posture for quite some time. And this more heavy equipment will allow them to, in a sense, take the attack to the Russians, their counterattacks. So it could be very significant as they reach another, potentially a turning point in this conflict. The Ukrainians say they need the equipment from the West and that it's the only reason why they are still in this fight, aside from their heart and their will to win. But when it comes down to the equipment, it has been crucial.
Now, Russian forces are targeting Ukrainian cities along the southern coast, first in Mariupol, now Odessa. What's the strategic significance of those locations?
Well, if we go back to the idea that Russia is trying to gain control of the Donbas region on the eastern side of Ukraine, if they can take Mariupol, for example, it could allow them to establish this land bridge between Crimea, which they annexed back in 2014, and the Donbas region. And as far as the southern part of the country, Mariupol, Odessa, and some of the other cities along the south, they would control the ports, and that would give them a strategic advantage as they try to have some more influence here in Ukraine. And that's one of the reasons why they're focusing on the southern region. And it's also worth noting, Diane, that this part of the country is where Russia feels like they have the best chance at some type of military or strategic victory in the midst of this conflict, because, as was elucidated earlier, they have had so many failures, and they want to have something to hang their hat on, so to speak, in terms of a victory or some type of win.
So, Marcus, what's the latest on potential peace negotiations, and how is everything that you just described contributing to the status there?
The peace negotiations are ongoing, or the attempts at negotiating a ceasefire or peace that does continue, according to the President Zelensky here in Ukraine. But there has yet to be a face-to-face meeting. And it's also worth noting that President Zelensky has said that if people who are stuck, for example, in the steel plant in Mariupol, the 1,000, mostly women and children who are stuck there, as well as the remaining fighters, he said that if they are injured or hurt, that negotiations will be off the table at that point. But throughout this entire conflict, even over the weekend when he held a rare news conference in a subway here, he left open the door for diplomacy. And anyone looking at a situation like this knows that there has to be a way for diplomacy. Everyone I've met here in Ukraine and across this region wants there to be peace at the end of the day. And so certainly they hope that at some point these negotiations can make progress.
All right, Marcus Moore for us in Kyiv. Marcus, thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.